Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to start with our first panel discussion, Sustainable Development, Balancing the Three Pillars, Profit, Planet and People. Sustainable development is at the heart of our global agenda, and balancing the interests of profit, planet and people is essential for a future where growth does not come at the expense of our environment or people. Today, we are fortunate to have a distinguished panel of experts who will shed light on these critical issues. Before we dive into the discussions, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite our esteemed panelists to the stage and introduce them. Our first panelist is Dr. Sonali Ghosh, IFS, Field Director of Kaziranga National Park and Tiger Reserve. Dr. Ghosh has been a tireless advocate for wildlife conservation and sustainable management of our natural resources. Her work is instrumental in protecting one of the most diverse regions in the world. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Sonali Ghosh on the stage. A huge round of applause for Dr. Sonali Ghosh. Ma'am, please.
Warm welcome to
you. May I request Mr. Prakhanta Jyoti Baruah, Executive Editor of the Assam Tribune, to felicitate Dr. Ghosh. Next, we have Dr. Sriparna B, Baruah, a renowned development professional. Dr. Baruah's extensive experience in development projects and community engagement provides invaluable insights into the human aspect of sustainability. Her work emphasizes how development can be both inclusive and impactful. Let us welcome, ladies and gentlemen, with a huge round of applause, Dr. Sriparna B, Baruah.
Warm welcome to you, ma'am. I would request
Mr. Prakhanta Jyoti Baruah to felicitate Dr. Sriparna B, Baruah.
Warm welcome, ma'am.
Our final panelist is Ms. Jahnabi Phookan, Director of JTI Group. Jahnabi brings a wealth of experience from the corporate sector, where she has been a leader in integrating sustainability with business practices.
Her perspective on balancing profit with environmental and social
responsibilities will be enlightening. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Ms. Jahnabi Phookan on the stage. Ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. We request you to take your seat. And now it is my great pleasure to introduce our moderator for the session,
Mr. Ananda Banerjee. Mr. Ananda is a distinguished author, environmentalist, and artist whose passion for sustainability is reflected in his diverse work. He will guide today's discussion and ensure a dynamic conversation.
I would have to request Mr.
Prakhanta Jyoti Baruah again to kindly come forward to felicitate Mr. Banerjee. Warm welcome, sir, and thank you very much, Mr.
Prakhanta Jyoti Baruah, for the felicitations. Ladies and gentlemen, with our panel now
on stage, I will hand over the proceedings to Mr. Ananda Banerjee, who will lead the discussion. Mr. Ananda, the floor is yours.
Thank you, the Assam Tribune Dialogue team, for having me here. I live many miles away, but I'm deeply connected to Assam
and also to the Assam Tribune. So it's wonderful to be back in Guwahati for this event.
I like to start with a few lines. Like every one of us and each one of us in this room,
and everything we are using here, right from our clothes to this microphone to the cables to all this camera, the glass bottles, the lights, everything is connected back to nature. The main
resource comes from nature. Everything we produce, day-to-day lives, not only here at our homes, outside this hotel, but nature never gave an invoice. So nature doesn't have a GPay QR code. So we haven't paid our dues to nature, or we forgot that there is a price to be paid, that everything has a value which we extract from nature to build
and create things around us and to enjoy also. So that has landed up in a situation where our air is polluted today, our water is polluted today, our soil is polluted today. And where do we go from here? The great N.T. Gandhi had once said that
the earth or the nature provides for everyone, but earth can't provide for everyone's greed. And it was so good to hear about today from the Honorable CM
that Assam progress in the UN SDG goals. So I would like to start today's conversations with Sonali, who I've known for a few years now. And obviously Kaziranga is a place very close to my heart, and I'm sure of everybody here, that what's the importance of Kaziranga in our lives apart from a tourism destination. On the backdrop of the COVID years, we just been successful in coming out of COVID, the emerging zoonotic diseases, and also about the constant, basically the images that you see on human-wildlife conflict, which is increasing kind of from every month. Over to you, Sonali.
Yeah, thank you so much there, Mr. Ananda.
And good afternoon to everybody. A very pertinent question, and I think we start the first session and we talk about Kaziranga, which is the jewel of Assam and of India and of the world. And of course, I'm thankful to the Assam Tribune to give me this opportunity to come here. I realized that, you know, having lived in the jungle, I was always in my jungle overalls and camouflage. I had forgotten that I can also be a woman and so I got this opportunity, so thank you so much. Your question about Kaziranga, and I think what best, because people are still settling in and we have the young students there, so I would request the audio team to just play, it's a 2-minute video. But
it's such a wonderful video that it just encompasses what we are all here as panelists trying to talk to you today. So I'll request, yes.
Kaziranga, Kaziranga, jeni samonomuha, nana jivo jonture bhora, ei Kaziranga. Kaziranga, Kaziranga, Huno thuoga sorai, nana hudi pukhiye, tatut goyo huoga sorai, ehingiya gore.
Thank you. I just wanted to convey that places like Kaziranga are the sites which are there for eternity. I mean, these are sites which have not changed over the last 1,000 years. And responding to your question on zoonotic diseases, so we are aware now that out of the
10 human diseases, 6 are zoonotic or animal-borne. And places like Kaziranga are the places which kind of act as our security. They act as the reservoirs of not spreading the disease anymore.
So, for example, in the COVID situation, we all know that we are aware that it happened through the genetic mutation of the virus in an animal called the pangolin. Now, pangolins, they store the virus among them. They store it in their bodies when they are in the forest. But the moment when we take them out, which was
the case, and they were put in the wet trade or the bushmeat hunting, that's where the virus jumped and it became a pandemic. So for us, it is important
that we secure and we keep these areas which are like the Kaziranga inviolate. And I think Assam has done an excellent work in terms of securing these areas, the communities living with them, and today we are proud of what our heritage sites are.
And also another note, you were with the Honorable Prime Minister earlier this year. So all of us would love to know that how was it to take the Prime Minister into Kaziranga? What did he ask? How was that experience?
Yeah, no, thank you, Ananda. That was not in the script. But yeah, thank you. I mean, I think it was an honor and a privilege of a lifetime to spend around 2.5 hours with the Honorable Prime Minister. It's amazing the energy. I mean, at 5 a.m. in the morning, the Honorable Prime Minister came to the park. He is the first Prime Minister to visit Kaziranga after
it became a national park. So the first was Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, and after that he is the second, but when it was a national park. 5:30 he came in, and we were a bit nervous, as you can imagine, and they were the women frontline whom he named as Vandurgas. We were all standing in attention, but he came in and he just, made everybody at ease. He said, come together. And then, he could talk to them. He,
interacted with them, understood that what are the challenges they face in the forest. And then he went on the elephant safari and the jeep safari. Honorable Prime Minister kept asking questions in terms of how do we manage our tourism, what do we do for plastic waste management. He was very, very concerned about it. He also asked us in terms of what we do in terms of our outreach with communities. So in a way, it was a very, very enlightening experience for all of us, and he motivated us all.
Thank you so much. And talking about tourism, there is nobody better than Jahnabi here. So my question is
how much social media is impacting tourism? Is this mad race for selfies and constantly updating your Instagram handle or Facebook? Is it destroying places? Is it kind of taking away the sanctity of travel? What do you feel about this?
Thank you. I'd like to first congratulate Assam Tribune for taking up this brilliant initiative of dialogues and for taking up a subject like sustainability. And what we're here to talk about, before we go to over-tourism, about sustainable development and the 3 pillars of people, planet, and profits. Now, if I can go back to the immediate question that you have, that yes, social media has its good and bad side. We needed the attention of the world in Kaziranga, but how much do we need? How can we handle it sustainably? Well, when you look at the definition of sustainable development, I'm so proud that it was a woman who coined it. It was Dr. Flo Brundtland, first Prime Minister of Norway, who spoke about in 1987. Sustainable development, when you take the resources of the present, use it enough so that there's left for your future generations with the resources intact. So that is what we have to take from our own environment and also leave it for our people, for our generations to come. So that is what she's encapsulating. That was 1987. We look at 1994, I think it was the British management consultant, I think, Elkington, who coined it as the triple bottom line: planet, people, and profit. That it is possible to do business, it is possible to make a profit while looking after the environment and your people. And that, I think, has really been the triple bottom line for our company, the JTI Group, when we started in 1989. Take the people, look after the planet, and create some profit for everyone together. So that is what sustainable development would mean to me. And where we are concerned today when we're talking about coming back to Assam, and that fabulous video that Dr. Ghosh has shown us of Kaziranga National Park. But Assam is also home to 7 national parks and 17 wildlife sanctuaries, besides the 2 World Natural Heritage Sites, which is Kaziranga and Manas. But the world only knows of Kaziranga National Park, maybe to an extent of Manas National Park. Whereas we have so many other beautiful resources to show. We need the distribution of wealth and the attention of the world on the other national parks as well. And if you look at...
May I ask one thing, that ecotourism has been around for quite some time as the word sustainability. But
what is now the eco in tourism? Is it ecological or it's become just economic?
Yes. So that's another thing we cannot overemphasize, that when we are now looking at the world today and tourism, what is the world coming to? Why are they coming to Assam? Look at Bandhavgarh. I mean, look at Madhya Pradesh with our Jyotiraditya Sinha was here, so I thought I'll talk about that. Home of 12 national parks, home of 25 wildlife sanctuaries. But not just one national park, but at least 5, 6 of national parks of Bandhavgarh are known, of Madhya Pradesh are known, whereas in Assam it's not. They had a footfall of 110 crore visitors. Assam has barely reached 1 crore in 2022. Maybe this year we will do that. So distribute our assets. And when we do so, let us do it very consciously, because the world comes to us, because we are a diversity hotspot. The Northeast contributes to, I think, 1/3 of India's wildlife richness. And whereas India has about 7 to 8% of the world's species, yet contributing about, I think it was 3 or 4% of the 2.4% of the Earth's land use. That's how rich we are. That's how rich Northeast is. We belong to 34, I think, biodiversity hotspots. So when we're celebrating all that, we need development and everything else, what our Chief Minister talked about. We totally agree. But we must preserve. That's why the eco in ecology and economics must somehow come together.
Thank you so much. So I want to shift to another topic of very importance to sustainability. It's on extreme weather and climate change. I'm sure all of you have faced in the recent rains in Guwahati. So, and I would like to ask Sriparna, because she's the one who spent her entire life in the development sector. Nobody knows the development sector as much in depth as she knows. So obviously Assam is also a place for Muga, the Muga cell. It's deeply connected to the environment. How much this erratic weather, the climate change has affected this sector and the other sectors that you've been working on, if you can just briefly tell us.
So can sustainability and development go hand in hand? Because today there are 2 aspects. There is an aspect of sustainability where when we are talking about environmentalist, everyone is talking about sustainability. Other part is the development part of it. So how do we look at development? We are looking at, the Chief Minister just mentioned about, the dreams, the development. And when we look at India dreaming to become a developed country, a Viksit Bharat that we are talking about, the Viksit Bharat's growth driver will be the MSME sector, micro, small and business, because it's not led by large industries. Yes, large industries will be there, but it's the micro and the small. And it is the micro and the small, especially the micro sector, which gets hugely affected by climate change. When we look at a little bit, because we normally never get an opportunity to talk about the micro sector. MSME, if you see, investment between 1 crore and a turnover of 5 crore is what qualifies to be a micro sector. And if we look at the percentage of enterprises which are there in the MSME sector, 99% is in the micro sector. Okay, when it is 99% in the micro sector, it means which also indicates that the type of enterprises are really small, whichever sector. You talk about the textile sector, you talk about the food sector, you talk about the tourism sector, everyone is in that small one category, in that 99%, which is a 1 crore investment, 5 crore turnover. And in fact, if you look at Assam, it would be even lesser, it would be nano enterprises. So these nano enterprises are basically dependent on the heavily influenced by climate change. For example, if we take examples, and then they are also the major employment generators. We are talking about creating entrepreneurs. The entrepreneurs gets created in this sector, primarily in this sector. So when we are looking at this sector, and we look at sectors which, micro enterprises are there, you will find in the handloom and handicraft sector, you'll have a large percentage of this micro enterprises. Then you'll have in the food and agri and allied sector, then tourism, of course, and it goes on. Majorly, these are the sectors. Now, if you look first at the handloom and handicraft, your question was on Muga, Eri, definitely any climate change affects it. And do these micro enterprises get even when they're looking at livelihood, where are they thinking about climate? How are they looking at, how can you think about them adopting sustainable practices? So them adapting sustainable practices will come in when there are policy interventions to see that the micro level, because we are always talking about green energy, we're talking about biodiesel. I'm not saying those are not required, but that emphasis per se will not lead to depletion of resources in where the micro sector, majority of the people are. Right? So that is where, so the Muga climate change of, any climate change, definitely the Muga cocoons get destroyed, the Eri cocoons get destroyed. Then we're looking at the food part of it. Then everywhere, food definitely, the entire agriculture gets destroyed because of that. So what can be, so how do you solve this problem is the major thing, I think in a forum like this we need to look at. How do we address this? One way which comes in is because we have to look at, and another question which comes is sustainability and micro enterprise is growth, because when you talk about sustainability, often growth doesn't come in. Because when sustainable enterprises are more of very smaller scale, but if they remain at very smaller scale, and then if they are not, getting influenced by climate, they remain small. So we have to also see that these MSMEs have to be linked to medium enterprises, they have to be linked to the larger enterprises. Now, if they have to be a funnel for the larger enterprises, it's important that at the grassroots, we start influencing, we start giving opportunities for them to understand what are the green sectors in which there is business potential. That is one sector. I'll not take much of your time. The second point is, when we look at Northeast, the handloom and handicraft sector, and the agri sector also, the abundance of resources. Are we looking at these resources as coming up with sustainable solutions? Packaging is one of the biggest things. Why, everything, you look at not only from the plant, bamboo, etc., but if you look at banana, what about banana fiber? It's an extremely sustainable. What about pineapple fiber? So we are not, and then packaging is a major solution. We are saying logistics industry has grown, but somewhere I think there is a disconnect between what the micro sector needs and in terms of green practices. So policy level intervention definitely is required. I'd like to stop that.
So we have a few minutes left. So I want to come back now to Guwahati. Live here. I've been a visitor for 20 years. And we heard the Honorable Chief Minister say that there will be more rapid changes. Now, when I came first to Guwahati 20 years back, and today's Guwahati is a very different Guwahati. How climate resilient Guwahati is. And like you were saying, we need to distribute. We have a Ramsar site, the Deeport Bhil in Guwahati, which is also slowly kind of vanishing, if I say. So it's, whoever you want to start, it's all open to all three of you, that how do you see Guwahati, and is real, yeah.
Well, I know our Chief Minister very rightly said that we hope Guwahati will be the gateway to Southeast Asia. But while we are there, we would also like to say that it has to be the gateway to Southeast Asia, but we in Assam must not think of ourselves as a one entity. We are part of the entire 8 states. We have to develop the 8 states together to make an impact on the world's consciousness. That besides coming back to wildlife again, we have 7 wildlife parks. The rest of the Northeast has about 13 national parks spread amongst the states. Where the visitor were to come, not just to Guwahati, do that 2 nights in Kaziranga and leave, and go off to Shillong and do Cherrapunji and get out, they could be doing the whole of the Northeast, and which would bring in more prosperity, infrastructure would develop, our people would gain, and that would be the true, strong, viable sort of a pipeway that we must have for the world to come via the Northeast and go on to Southeast Asia. So that is my contention, and I would like that to be so. Thank you.
You have designed so many development programs. What's your input in the future of the design of Guwahati?
Yeah, because I would, since the question was more on Guwahati, I would say if we look at Guwahati, how much of sustainable businesses are happening in Guwahati? Let's ask ourselves that first. Why do people visit Guwahati? Apart from visiting the tourist sites, Kamakhya is an important area, point for which people come to Guwahati. What is sustainability there in Kamakhya? How much of other floral waste getting converted to agarbatti? Do we have proper green energy being used? Do we have sustainable products being sold there? Is the entire Guwahati through craft being depicted in Kamakhya? So we have to look at the entire ecosystem. Since I'm from the enterprise development, so all the time we have to look at it. Ultimately, it's about survival of people. It's about creation of jobs. So that will happen when we are looking at every aspect of sustainability from an economic perspective also. And so that, why don't we look at Kamakhya and look at tourism ecosystem development of enterprises, sustainable enterprises around Kamakhya.
Thank you so much, all 3 of you. It's a pleasure talking to you. And thank you, everyone here, for listening to us. Thank you so much.